This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back here to Kickin It With Knuble, episode 16. Mike, we're back with a former teammate of yours, former captain, the Philadelphia Flyers, longtime NHLer, over 1,000 games, Stanley Cup champion, Derian Hatcher. Thanks so much for doing this. Really appreciate it. And how's everything going?
Not too bad. Just enjoying another winter day here. We just got some snow today. You guys are probably getting hammered out there, eh, noobs?
Yeah, we get it off the lake, so it just kind of keeps coming. Yeah, that's
for us too. 2 inches is a lot here.
Yeah.
But things are going well.
Nice, good stuff. Yeah, I mean, just kind of going off that, I guess we'll kind of start, back when you, play with Mike and things like that. Obviously, coming to Philly, signed as a free agent. Can you, just kind of talk about, kind of signing to Philly and, kind of being a free agent and like the process of, just kind of being a free agent in the NHL and things like that?
Well, going to Philly was kind of a, that was coming off the lockout, I believe. And that was kind of a, I don't want to say messed up thing, but it was a different thing. The Red Wings had bought me out. And so, all of a sudden I was a free agent. There's a few teams interested, but Philly was, I wanted to win. Bob Clark drafted me, and my brother told me he feels I always should have been a Philadelphia Flyer. But so, the process is always tough, as Mike knows, where you want to play and what you want to do. There's, a lot of question marks, right? But, we enjoyed our time there immensely.
Yeah, it's like, to your point, it was a weird time because, being a Detroit guy, you grew up in Sterling Heights and, it worked yourself in your career and then signed with Detroit. That's the irony, is that, before that lockout, they signed you under a non-cap situation. And then when the cap got settled and all the dust settled, all of a sudden they're like, well, we need to buy Derian out, and all of a sudden you're back on the market again, where you probably were really ready to settle into Detroit for the next 6 or 7 years, right? Well, so that's really an awkward situation.
Yeah, no, that was definitely the plan. Leaving Dallas was that was hard to do, to be honest with you. And I, and then coming back to my hometown here in Detroit was a great option for me at the time. And I figured, if everything goes well, play the rest of my career out in Detroit. But I understood it. I didn't hold any hard feelings against the Red Wings. Steve Yzerman actually told me, and he felt horrible about it, and so forth and so on. But I really didn't hold any grudges against Detroit, and like I said, it was definitely a different time, and it is what it was, and we enjoyed our time in Philly.
Yeah, I mean, you brought in like Mike Ratchie, at the same time, and there was, and Peter. It was crazy time, and. You had the Roniks and the Reckies on their way out, and then kind of replaced it with, some other big names. And so, you, Mike Ratchie, Peter came in right around there. I jumped in there. It was, kind of a transition. They kept Simone, they knew they had young guys coming, and Mike Richards, and so Mike Richards, Jeff Carter, that kind of crop was coming up too. So it was certainly a big transition there. And I think the game was starting to change, and they were not sure how they want to build your team anymore. And people kind of used that first year when to kind of see how they were going to build their teams moving forward, and if all these new rules were actually going to be how enforced they were going to be.
Yeah. No, 100%. And honestly, Mike, we talked with Paul Holmgren, who kind of talked about how like those couple of years it was like trying to fix everything from oh 06, oh 07, and kind of just trying to kind of like rebuild that team. Hatch, I know you only played a couple years in Philly, and towards the end, I think you were hurt a little bit too. But for those like 3 years, like, could you kind of see like where the Flyers were kind of going, like those next couple of years? Like, obviously, it was like Mike mentioned, it was a pretty big, kind of turnaround and things like that. And obviously, you were captain for the 1 year too. But could you kind of see like kind of where that team was progressing, like as you were kind of going through your time in Philly?
Yeah, a bit. I mean, I think when we first got there the first year, I think our goal was to win the Stanley Cup. Well, it is every year, but I think everyone thought we had a realistic chance, and Keith Primo got hurt too, which probably which hurt us as well. But going back to it, I think the first half of the season, Noobs, our first year there after the lockout, I believe we were number one in the conference or maybe even in the league. And then sometime after that, about Christmas or right after Christmas, there our wheels just kind of fell off, and I'm not exactly sure why, but the wheels kind of fell off, and then what do we do? Was that the second round, Noobs, or the first round we lost to Buffalo? You remember?
I want to feel it was the first round. And do you
Yeah,
remember
first
Bobby?
round.
Yeah, do you remember
Yeah,
Bobby
first
Clark?
round.
Yeah, do you remember Bobby Clark coming in the locker room before
Yeah, that's
before
right.
the game
Yeah,
was
yeah,
going to go?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Bobby
No, he
Clark
wasn't very.
basically told us we weren't going to go very far.
Yeah, he wasn't very happy about that, but to say the least. But
Yeah.
anyways, we end up losing to Buffalo, and and then the next year, we didn't make playoffs, and that was a tough year. That was a really, really tough year in Philadelphia, to be honest. They're just between their fans and everything else.
Yeah.
When you're not winning in Philadelphia, it's definitely not enjoyable.
Hmm.
But if you are winning, it's great.
Right.
It's like that in a lot of cities, but I think Philadelphia is probably one of the. It might be like Montreal a bit, I guess. But if you're winning, things are great. But if you're not winning, man, it's a tough city to play in. And
Yeah.
but going forward from there, then the third year we ended up back in the conference finals, and
Hmm.
lost to Pittsburgh. So
Yeah.
it was definitely ups and downs, but I look back and personally I don't have any regrets about it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, just kind of going off that, you mentioned Pittsburgh a little bit. I know you've kind of talked about this before, but you had that epic kind of battle with Crosby in his first game in Philly. Obviously, like you were always one of them guys that just kind of went out there and use your body, use your size to your advantage. Like I feel like the Flyers kind of see that now a little bit with Michkov, where he kind of gets like targeted and things like that. Obviously, it was a big thing, back then, and Crosby's first game in Philly. But can just kind of talk about like how like going into that game and just kind of going up against them and things like that, and just kind of just bullying them and throwing them to the ground and
Well,
all
you know
that.
what? he, he got treated like any other player. He was a rookie.
Yeah.
And I think at the time, I think Sid's come a long ways. I know Noobs. I remember we had the conversation about him and Ovechkin a long time ago, and you always liked Sidney Crosby, but I think Sid's come a long ways, and I think he just had a bit of a reputation as being a little of a whiner.
Yeah.
And I do remember that first game because the first time I hit him along the wall, and my arms probably came up a little bit high on that one, and then like 5 minutes later, I went to lift his stick, and I think they ended up hitting his teeth instead. And
Oops.
I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
Yeah.
But everyone's always saying, "Oh, you do this per." I'm like, "No, you don't. I didn't do it per. I went to lift the stick, and it just so happened it was both plays, and neither one of them I got a penalty on."
Right.
And I think that's what really started all that with the whole thing there. But
Right.
and that's really all it was. But like I said, he's definitely come a long ways.
Yeah.
That is so funny because it's just you call it Hatch being Hatch, right? So like you said, he's just some rookie coming down, give him the your hands. Oops, my hands come up just because they always did. He's the first, not the first of not to happen to a lot of guys. And oops, my stick got up on you a little bit, and it just happened to happen at the same time, and the Philly crowd kind of ran with it. Like the
They
fans,
loved it.
like,
Yeah.
it's just Hatch. Oh, good. So. I always thought it was kind of funny. Like Hatch came to the rink like, I got this big plan. I'm going to rough this kid up, and it was just like Hatch being Hatch, just kind of
Right.
running.
Oh yeah, I honestly, it was irrelevant. It's just
Yeah.
it was purely Twinton. It was just so happened, and
Right.
and I don't know if people believe that to today, but it's the truth. It's just and I think it was within 5 or 10 minutes of each other too, and it's back to back. And like Noobs just said, so the crowd really loved it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that just kind of started it all off.
Yeah, it did, and it had legs. I could picture you in the sauna post game having a Bud Light or two and being like, "Oh, I did. I guess I did. Yeah, like, I did, Hatch."
Yeah.
Like not even
Well,
like, yeah,
I
not
knew,
even like,
what, I knew my stick because I remember he was in the slot and I was trying to reach and did a stick and my stick missed and just it got him pretty good actually and
yeah,
but
many,
no, so I
one of
did know
many.
I did know I got him there, but yeah, I'm sure we did have a Bud Light in the sauna.
Talking
That's
about
funny.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are like, boy,
that's
Hatcher an up around Crosby, and he's like, oh, I don't know, it just kind of happened. I don't know.
Well, and it
Right.
did. It did. It could have been anyone else. It just
Yeah,
so
right,
happened.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
The time, that's the timing of it all was just in a way it couldn't have been better. I guess I mean, like I said, they both happened relatively like 2 or 3 shifts apart.
Right.
yeah,
And the crowd absolutely loved every minute of it. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I feel like after that too, it just kind of like set like the reputation like that's just like Philly just hates this guy, and it all just kind of like
yeah.
went with that. So totally get what you're saying with that one. I obviously I'm not trying to keep bringing up guys that you hurt, but you did the play on Jeremy Roenick when you were with Dallas. Can you talk about that? Just kind of like the way like that hit was, and obviously you ended up breaking his jaw and everything. But like, has that like been settled and all? Obviously there's like the clip of Jr. just like rearranging his teeth after it. Like, has any of that just been settled and just kind of post career and stuff like that?
Yeah, Jr. You know what? I've seen Jr. a lot since then,
Okay.
and you know what? I give him credit. He's never said anything bad to me. He's I just handled it as best as he could. He always just said it's part of the game. To be honest with you, I've done a few events with him. I've seen him post hockey. I saw he was doing TV, and I was working with the Flyers. We're in the elevator together. We talked about it.
Hmm.
There's as far as I'm sure somewhere in the back of his mind he has some hard feelings. But I'll tell you right now, he doesn't show it, and he definitely doesn't say anything about it.
Right.
Yeah, and you know what? And going into it going back, that's the year we had a pretty good rival. They had a good team there in Phoenix, and him and Tkachuk were there, and I remember what had happened is Jr. hit Modano behind the net. Like Mo didn't have the puck, he didn't like just absolutely laid him out. It probably should have been a 5-minute penalty back then, and Jr. he didn't get a penalty or nothing, and it was like 10 games before playoffs or something like that, and so it just went on, and I don't know how well you guys know Keith Tkachuk, but Keith Tkachuk sometimes has he shoots off a lot. Like Jeremy Roenick basically never said anything. The most of it was Keith Tkachuk. He just went off. Oh well, if they don't like it, too bad. Yada yada yada. He just. I've been watching Seinfeld a little bit too much. I keep saying yada yada yada, but so Tkachuk, he just he was rambling off in the paper and stuff, and I think it was probably 2 or 3 games later we played him. We played him pretty quick after that. And it just so happened Jr. And I always said to him, and I said to him outright, if you watch the video, he had the puck going behind our net. And Noobs, you know this, he knew I was on the ice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, players know who's on the ice, right? Noobs, forwards,
Absolutely.
you guys know, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And that's what I said, you knew. And he come right behind the net, and I was there, and I hit him. And you know what? Swear on everything, I never tried to break his jaw.
Yeah.
That was the result of the play, and it was unfortunate. It really was.
Hmm.
But I've asked JR since then. I said, how is it that you put yourself in that position? And so if you watch the video, Craig Ludwig, and I didn't know this until a couple years ago. He slashed him, and in that slash, JR looked down at his hand.
Oh, okay.
And so that's how and then he looked up and there I
Yeah.
was.
Right.
And he's actually joked about it. He said he actually broke his thumb on the play too, but no one knows that because Luds broke his thumb.
Right. That's crazy.
Yeah, and so that's kind of what was behind that, and
Right.
and and like I said, the result was very unfortunate,
Mhm.
but JR and I, we've always been good. We see each other maybe once a year, every 16 months, something like that, and it's everything seems to be fine.
Right.
That clip it slipped my mind. I'm gonna have to look that up after we're done here. I forgot.
Yeah.
What
I'm
year
gonna
was
have to rewatch it now that you said that.
was
Yeah.
it? Late 90s
Yeah.
in there?
What's that?
Was it like 97, 98 in there?
Yeah, 98, 99.
Yeah. No. Because you had to go through that.
No, and
You had to
that's the
go
truth.
through
He
that.
said outright, like Luds had slashed him,
Mhm.
and no one knew he had a broken thumb because that was irrelevant at the time.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so that's why he looked down at his hand, and that's 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 exactly what had happened and how he didn't know I was there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
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 Okay, so just kind of going off that, I was looking up some other clips and stuff on YouTube, just kind of trying to find some things to talk about. You had a couple like really good fights with Lindros in Philly when you were with the Stars. Obviously, he was one of the bigger guys in the league, and just kind of like bigger stars in Philly kind of coming up. Can you talk about just kind of like going up against him and fighting him and stuff?
Well, I'm a year older than he is, so
Hmm.
I had known. I played juniors against him. I fought him in juniors.
Right.
Yeah, the one I think was we were both young at the time, I believe. I really that really wasn't. Neither one of them was just two big guys, I
Right.
mean, no, neither one of us got hurt. But the second one was more. I knew that was coming. I think that's Philly was going through a lot of problems at the time, and we came into Philly, and we had a really good team there in Dallas, and because our assistant coach Rick Wilson grabbed me in the pregame state, and he told me, he goes, Bob Clark came down and talked to the whole team and about his displeasure, and he
Mhm.
goes, just what, just be ready. He goes, I don't know what Lindros will do, but just be ready for him. And sure enough, I think it might have been the opening whistle, to be honest. He came at me and we fought, and
Mhm.
I think I do remember because he might have tried to slew foot me that time if you watch, and that's actually when I got pissed off. But yeah, it was just two big guys fighting. Neither one of us. I don't even
Right.
know if we hit each other or not, to be honest.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's a lot of beef right there, you two. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
that's
lot of beef. Yeah.
yeah. No, that was there was
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
beef there. So
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, yeah. It's nice of Rick Wilson to give you a heads up, be like, hey, I know the gym just loaded his team up, just came in
yeah,
and hit them all. So be ready after that, the start of the game, and
that's
probably,
exactly and
Yeah.
yeah,
and I don't
probably the
know
best.
because and they started. I know I started, and then the big line there started, and yeah, I'm pretty sure it was opening shift, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's good. Get it
Yeah.
out of the way. Everybody's warmed up. You're feeling fresh. Just get it done with, and yeah,
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
exactly. Right.
really the only time I've ever had a heads up of any fight or anything, to be
I
honest
was
with
just
you.
about to ask you that. Like,
Yeah,
have you ever like I
that's
was just gonna ask like so that's the only time you ever had like a heads up or anything like that?
yeah. I had a hunch going into Phoenix, and that's time. Like
Yeah.
Kachuk didn't have a choice but to fight me.
Right.
And then they had DeBrusque who fought me. Like I knew something would be coming there, but yeah, no, that's the only time I've ever and yeah, like I said, he grabbed me and said, "Hey, this is what happened.
Hmm.
Beware." Well, not beware, but he just gave me a heads up. So
Right.
yeah, and
Wow.
that's the only time. Yeah,
Yeah. Just just kind of going off that, I wanted to go back a little bit to the lockout when you mentioned earlier. You played in the UHL, the
yeah,
United Hockey League, Motor City. It
Yeah.
was a expansion team that year, right?
yes, I believe
Yeah.
so.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Any you know, any just like stories or anything, just kind of playing in that league and kind of during the lockout
I
and
had
all.
fun.
Yeah.
To be honest, Shelly and I we had a great time. And for me, honestly, it started the year before I had hurt my ACL, and then all right, I came back. I think I ended up playing a total of 12 playoff games and
Hmm.
maybe four before playoffs. So when we found out this was going all year, I could have went overseas and played. I didn't want to do that, and the opportunity came up, and I felt like I needed to play. That would have been almost like 2 years of not playing hockey, which it's a lot. And
Yeah.
so I felt I needed to play, and I forget who it was. A buddy of mine that knew the owner of the team said, "Hey, any
Mhm.
chance you'd ever want to play with these guys?" And and I talked to Charlie, and Charlie was all over it. He was like, "Hell yeah, we'll figure something out and do it." And
Right.
since we didn't play road games, so we made sure they wouldn't cut anyone, anything like that. Uh, yeah, I mean, honestly, we had a fun time. I mean, I don't know if I have any great stories. I mean, there were some guys beating. I guess there was a YouTube video about I don't know, saying something. I never even heard any of that to be honest, but no, we had a fun time, and then we brought Brian Smolinski in,
Hmm.
and things even got better, and everything was good till Avery came in, and then he just kind of ruined
Yeah, I was
everything for
gonna say.
us.
Yeah, you had like Brian Smolinski and Sean Avery there, right? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, everything
yeah.
was great until Aves came in. And then anyone that knows Aves started chirping guys, kind of just still playing how he played, and it's like, Aves, just be quiet, man. We have a pretty good thing here, like. So, but no, and it was fun, and like I said, at the time I felt like I needed to do it. Just so I felt like I had to play hockey, and
Right.
that would have been basically 2 years playing. I think there was 20 games total, and so
Hmm.
I felt like I needed to play.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, no, because I remember like talking with Mike when we were starting the pod and everything. Like he mentioned, like he went over to Sweden, and played. I think right,
Hmm.
Mike, Sweden. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I
just
did.
kind of and
Well,
and like guys just kind of
nobody thought it was going to be a whole year. Yeah, yeah.
right. Yeah, and just like going
Thought you
over
just
and
go for a
playing and
couple
just like
weeks.
anyone. Yeah, and it was like essentially like everything like anytime you look up a guy on like Hockey DB that like played in like your guys' era, like there's always just like some random like league or team that they played on during that. So
Yeah.
it's always interesting just to kind of poke around and see. Um, just kind of going back to Philly a little bit. Do you just kind of looking at the team now and kind of where they're at, and obviously it's a rebuild and whatnot. But do you have any thoughts on just kind of where the Flyers are at now, and Danny Briere and Keith Jones kind of taking over?
I mean, obviously, Noobs and I know Danny. We know Jonesy. And I'm going to be honest. I pay attention, but I don't watch him play. We really don't get their games much here. And
Mhm.
and when I'm home, it's my wife and my little girl. They really don't want to watch hockey.
Right.
So I don't watch. I watch the Red Wings a bit, but I really don't watch them. I pay attention. I look at the standings. I know what's going around the league. But as far as what they're doing, I really couldn't tell you right now, to be honest. It
Yeah.
seems like they're making improvements. It seems like they're making strides. But to me, it's a time will tell thing. That's what people always even ask me about the Red Wings, and I'm like, you know what, time will tell. I think they're a little bit better than they were last year, but not a whole lot. And they'll be 7-11s, and that's where I think the Red Wings will be at. I know we're talking about Philly, but to answer your question in Philly, there, like I said, I know they're making strides, but I don't watch them enough to really know.
Right. Yeah. So then let me ask you then, like obviously like knowing, Danny and Jonesy, like do you have any thoughts on just kind of them like kind of taking over the helm and kind of where they could, and it just kind of like knowing them like what they can kind of bring.
Yeah, well, Danny's he's a very what's the word I'm looking for, Noobs?
Pragmatic.
Danny, yes, yeah, like,
He's
and
a thinker. Moves, yeah,
so
thoughtfully.
everything he does will be thoughtful, and he'll, it could take a long time, but
Right.
honestly, I think even more than Danny, and I like Danny a lot. I coach both his sons. I think bringing in Jonesy was a really, really good thing. I think Jonesy's, it's just just by him being so much around the game, watching it literally every night, whether he wanted to or not. Some nights he had to watch hockey every night, and I think bringing Jonesy in was a really, really good thing.
Yeah, he's got that gift for engaging people, and while he was before he took the job in Philly, I mean, he talked to a ton of people. Man, part of his job was talking to people, and he's very good at
exactly
collecting information and the way teams are doing
Yep.
things, the way people are thinking. So, besides his own opinions about players and players in the league, I mean, how organizations are run and what the good ones are trying to do, and what the bad ones are lacking, and so then you have a chance to get your hands on it and bring it in and implement it yourself. It's pretty, it's great he had all that knowledge to be able to implement it himself.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is that a Flyers shirt you have on there?
It is. It's I was going to ask you about it.
There it is. Yeah. That's why there's so many questions about the Flyers.
Yeah. Just going off that, obviously you guys both played in this. Were you guys fans of it, or not a fan? Like it? No? Yes.
A fan of what? The jersey?
Yeah, this jersey, the chrome one. I know it was like kind of a crazy look and all. Yeah,
I like them. Yeah, I love their jerseys. I really do. I never I never played in that brighter orange, but
right.
I played in that one there. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mike, did you like playing in this one too? The chrome jersey?
Yeah, I mean that was the third jersey, I think, right? Because they went to the white and the black.
Yeah.
Paid a little homage to the 70s and 80s, going back to the orange, and it's a little more burnt than the brighter traffic cone ones, kind of like they really had, But I guess that was our third jersey at the time, and it was fine, I mean, I think people had taken the third jerseys out, obviously it's crazy now, but it was starting to come around and find ways for extra revenue, and I'm sure us as players, when we started realizing that our salaries were tied to the cap, we're like, yeah, print a bunch of jerseys, sell as many as you can, Yeah, it was great. Yeah, so really print them all up, sell them. Yeah. So
yeah, that's funny. Just to kind of go back, I wanted to ask about the 2008 run. Obviously, it was a pretty big year. You guys, Mike, we talked about this with Homer and just like how many moves he made, and getting guys like Coburn and Marty Biron came in at that deadline. Signed Danny. So many moves that were made. Hatch, just for you, like just kind of talk about like that season and obviously that playoff run, going up against Pittsburgh, and I know you mentioned earlier a little bit, but just any stories and just kind of thoughts from from that run and things like that.
Well, for me, it was a great way to end up my career. The year before was, I kind of touched on it. I didn't use the word miserable, but
right,
it might have been my most miserable hockey year everywhere, to be honest. Of any time, it wasn't a fun year, and then to be able to come back the next year and come back, and I mean, it was a much better year. It was a lot funner of a year. We ended up, I think, losing the Pit in 5 or 6 games. I forget what it was, in the conference finals. For me, I had a hunch with my knee that it might be the end, and to be able to end it with a decent run, for me, it was a lot better. And actually, prior the year before that, talking about Paul Holmgren, I don't know how you feel about Paul Holmgren, noobs, but I think Paul Holmgren's awesome, to be honest with you. And he gave me an option. The year before he could have traded me. He called me up on the road and literally asked if I wanted to be traded. And at the time I didn't. I said I wanted to be a part of this going forward, and he honored that. He could have traded me, and he elected not to. And that's just the kind of guy he is, though. And even his time as the GM in Philly, I was always kind of surprised because the way things are in Philly, they run you out, right? And I was surprised. I mean, because then, how long was he there, Noobs? As GM.
I mean, he took over for Bob. The start of that 06. Oh, probably a 5-year run, and then
I think he was done. He was done in 20. I think it was 2012, so like 2013, 14.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
because Mike,
So
didn't he?
all I was going to say though is he went to the conference final and Stanley Cup final both in 4 or 5 years,
Yeah,
whatever it was. And it's just and I guess it is the way Philly is. But when I was there, I thought he did a great job.
Mhm.
right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're big fans of Paul, and we had him on here a couple weeks ago, which was great to have him on here. But you go back to it, like him calling you, and he was super, super respectful of guys who are established in their careers and
Yeah.
veteran guys, and he's like, hey, how do you want to do this? And he was very good at understanding your like kind of like your legacy as a player, if you want to say that. Like, I'm not gonna, you've earned the right to call your shot here, and we'll help you, as long as it's good for both of us. We'll help you figure out how we want to, how we can take care of
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
Yeah.
that was where I always felt he was super strong. Was just like his the way he treated like veteran players and where they were in their career, and coming to a conclusion and of how you wanted this to run out. It was really cool. So, but going back to Hatch real quick, what we were talking about your knee and stuff. I mean, I remember coming to the training room and doctor with a syringe pulling 50 cc's of fluid out of your knee, like a couple times a
100,
week.
120 to 140. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, you didn't
Yeah.
get into that, but I mean, that's what people don't see, and you have to keep that quiet. You can't exactly tell people this, but and it's just like this weird. It's almost like really like dark urine, like stuff coming out of your knee, and just watch.
Yeah.
Part of it's like the creep in me that wanted to watch him do it. I'm like, ooh, that's pretty interesting, But it
Yeah,
was
noobs like to watch. And then he would try to make fun of you, like, oh, that was noobs. Yeah, he would call you names if you grimaced. I won't say
yeah,
them
yeah,
here, but
yeah, palm soft. Oh,
Uh,
baby. Yeah, so. And then, yeah, further out
that's
upon
funny.
the lead, you remember we went out to Marion. We played Marion Country Club, Marion the Golf Club, the day before your knee replaced. So we made him play golf 18 holes at Marion before he was going in the next day to have his knee replaced. So it was pretty hot up on pills to try and get through that 18, but we
yeah,
dragged him.
no, and that was probably my most miserable golf experience too.
At Marion, yeah. Not
And I'm
because of the
not
golf.
talking about my knee. I'm not talking about my knee either. I
Oh, yeah.
always have
That's
fun with
funny.
Mike, but I think I was putting the ball pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, and then we have to walk all over again. He's like, screw it. Probably went through at least a dozen
Oh,
Pro Vs that day. Just left them. No,
Oh yeah, at least. Oh yeah,
I'm
for
not
sure.
going again. I don't even know if we had a card or
that's
not. If we
funny.
just had a caddy or I don't remember. But,
Yeah,
well, you could have
we had a card. I'm pretty
blue
sure.
flag
Yeah, we had a card. I'm pretty sure. But
on.
yeah, no,
That's
it was definitely one of my tougher golf days.
for a lot of reasons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's funny. Yeah, and then just kind of going back to Homer, for a quick minute. I think kind of what Hatch, like kind of like what you were saying, and Mike, you too, like on how how he respected the guys and stuff like that. I think that's kind of what Danny is kind of implementing a little bit too, is like having a little bit more respect for the players and things like that. I think that kind of got lost in Philly a little bit. For those couple years there, I think a lot of that is the Flyers are trying to kind of bring that back too. Um, but
Well,
yeah, and
that's a big
then
part of it.
yeah,
That's a big part of it. Players know that.
yeah,
Organizations that good raps and bad raps, and that's part of it right there. Is players know that. How are you treated? And we all understand it's a business, and any days anything can happen. But within that,
right,
you know what? Be honest and just treat you with respect.
right, yeah, no, 100%. And again, I think that's a lot of what the Flyers are trying to kind of get back to too. Um, And then just one last one for me here, Mike. I don't know if you got anything else after this, but I was just curious if you had any stories just kind of playing in the World Cup of Hockey in '96 when you guys won. Obviously, it was huge. Yeah, I think that was the year that was when it was in Philly. I think.
Yep. Yep.
But just like any stories kind of playing in that, playing for Team USA.
You know what? That was one of my that was I don't want to. It was a great experience. You know what? And I say it all the time. Uh, I do a few things that Noobs is at too, and sometimes I'm in Windsor and they ask me a question. And one of my best memories in hockey is going into Montreal and winning the World Cup in Montreal. That was pretty sweet. And I give it to those fans though. You know what? It got quiet, but at the end of the day, they applauded and clapped. I mean, they were good hockey games, and but that was truly a great experience.
I remember those games. I think that was my second training camp, with the Red Wings or whatever, and at the Renaissance Center watching those games. I mean, they were, and you see the video now, like those guys. It was not like a shinny game by any means. Like guys were, you know,
Oh
for
yeah,
for
no, they weren't shinny.
time of
No,
year, yeah, for the
yeah,
time of year in September and kind of not being in game shape, like guys were going at it, and there was,
yeah,
this animosity that was just like those games were pretty mean. Like they were savage for
Yeah.
September. Like guys needed a break after that. Everybody. I think I remember like guys like Shanahan and Eisenman, and you didn't see them for a couple weeks. I think they started practicing again the week before the regular season. Like they took a break, but GMs must have been like, God, my guys are getting killed. My superstars are out here beating the shit out of each other, and it's like, this isn't the way I want to go into a season with a dinged up superstar here. I mean, there was no mercy out
no,
there. It was
no,
tough.
you're right. It was, it was. No, you're absolutely right, Mike. It was, it was, and that's how it was. It was. I don't want to use the word brutal, but yeah, it was like the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah,
It was
Yeah.
all hands on deck and everything you had.
yeah.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see like the four nations, right? So what's going in a
Yeah,
couple of weeks. Is
Right.
that I don't quite see that anymore, just because the players are changed and times are different. But
yeah.
there'll be a little more shinny. It's going to probably be a little looser, a little more up and back. But man, that was. I mean, anybody listening, like if you have a chance to go look up some highlights out of that, like the guys were the stars, the Hall of Famers that were in their prime. There were like, oof, it was good. It was really, really good hockey. Really, really man's
Right.
hockey for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, outside of that, that's this has been great. Ash, thanks so much. Taking the time to join us. It was really nice to kind of pick your brain and kind of just learn a lot of stuff about you too. So it was awesome. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah. Hey, no problem, guys.
Yeah. Thanks, Hatch, for coming out, buddy. Appreciate it.
Yeah, always a pleasure, noobs.